This episode is gonna be about gear and whether you need the good and expensive gear or you actually do not need it. But there's gonna be more after the intro, as always. As every day, because it is amazing, because it is amazingly good. And with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I'm really pumped for this episode, and I'm really looking forward to this episode just because I also think that this episode is gonna be an episode that is important. At least I think it is important. If it is in the end going to be important for everyone, I wouldn't necessarily say so, but it's hopefully going to be important for some people outside here. But yeah, there's three things that I'm willing to talk about before I'm even going through the episode. First thing is, if you're willing to listen to this, the link is down in the description. It is the first link. And if you're willing to watch it, if you are already on the podcast, then please check out the show notes as well. And it is going to be the second link as far as I remember. The second thing is the notes. If you're willing to just have a summary of this episode, then please check out the notes section in the description and or in the show notes if you're on the podcast. And there is a link to a PDF and you can download it and print it and do whatever with it for free. And there is no virus shit because it is on Google Drive and everything is checked and whatnot. So please, you can download it and then you can also read it if you're just more into reading than listening and or watching. And the last thing is music. If you're willing to personalize the whole experience of the podcast and or the video, then please check out the third link or, well, it's actually the fourth one. So just the last one. Check out the last link and it is going to lead you to a page where you can also choose which track you're willing to have in your background or as your background music, and you then just also can adjust the volume and everything else to just make it good for you. But yeah, let's move right into the whole video or the video or whatever, or I don't know. So I've actually found, I think it's three different articles, and I think they're pretty amazing and they're pretty interesting to have a look at. So yeah, does gear matter? As editor-in-chief of a musical gear website, it seems like a silly question. Yeah, it really does seem like a silly question. But I gotta have to say, like this episode, even though it is about gear, and I'm referring to gear as whatever gear it might be, whether it is about being a musician, whether it is about being a photographer, whether it is about being a podcaster. You know, there's always gear involved. There's always just new gear and more expensive gear. And also if you're working out, do you really need those very specific dumbbells that are kind of curved in a specific way that should make them more ergonomic or some shit? I don't think that there's something like that, but I just had to make something up, yeah? So I'm referring to every gear. The thing is, if you're Googling for just if gear matters and all those things, you're probably only gonna see people talking about or writing about musicians or music instruments and or also photography and cameras and lenses and all those things. So just to let you know. At the two, you can play. And he says, or he just writes about that gear can also be something that's very, very personal. As for example, Brian May has used the same guitar his entire career. Not the same model and not the same brand, but the very same guitar. Just the exact same guitar. And it was his first guitar. Almost every Queen song contains the iconic sound he created with it. So Brian May seems to be the guitarist, if this is like the English word, I don't know, in or from the Queens or from Queen, the band, I would say. And I think it is something that's very, very interesting. Also concerning the first point that I was coming up with, which is a tattoo you can play. Because he was always using the exact same guitar. It is just his iconic sound. It is just his guitar, the guitar that he's just using. And whether it is an expensive guitar, I don't think so, because it was his first guitar. Because I don't assume that the first guitar is always going to be an expensive one, but I don't know. I think the thing that many young and or amateur musicians get caught up in is expense. They see experienced musicians they admire with gear they cannot afford and assume that without such gear they can't achieve the same level of production or performance. And this is definitely not the case, I would also say that I'm doing a really, really great job and I'm recording with my fucking iPhone. It's an iPhone 5S. It is fairly old, really fucking old. It's from 2013. It was released in 2013. I think it's been September something, 2013. It is fucking old. It really fucking is. The thing is, it is still working. And everything is working quite fine, so there's actually no need to change something up. You know, there's no need to just buy myself a microphone because it is working really, really, really fine. And it doesn't really come up to which gear you're using. It really comes up to if you're able to play the guitar or not, because if you're just buying yourself a really expensive guitar and you're not able to play the fucking guitar, like, yeah, you know, what do you expect then? You know, do you expect to be a good guitarist just because you're having an expensive guitar? It's not gonna work out. I think it is just something that makes sense, but it's not gonna work out, you know? Just to let you know, it's not gonna work out. The thing is, but they're also gonna talk about that. So let's just move on. Then an expensive hammer will make you an architect. So they say as well that whatever gear it might be all about, whether it is a hammer for just being an architect, whether architects are actually using hammers or not, I don't know, and I actually also assume they are not. But the thing is, if you're a designer and you're having a really high-end PC, it's not going to make you a better designer. If you're just having a good camera, it's not going to make you a better photographer. Even though, in that case, in terms of photography, I do have to say that having good gear just really can make you a better photographer. But in the end, the case is that if you're a good photographer, you don't need good gear. Kinda. So maybe it is just kind of a statement that you're not a good photographer if you're having just really fucking expensive gear. Somehow. Not really, but somehow, you know? Take this with a grain of salt, please. Yeah, you know how I mean it. I know that you know how I mean it. A piece of gear is priced according to a few things, which is something that I wasn't really, I wasn't really accepting that, I would say. According to a few things, which are materials, design, craftsmanship, features, country of origin, and of course, the added cost of retail. But I'm not quite sure about that. The thing is, if you're buying something and it is branded, you're gonna pay a fucking lot for the brand, you know? Of course, it is also, let's just take the iPhone, you know? Let's literally take the iPhone. I think the production cost of an iPhone, let's just take, I think the newest one, the 11 Pro, it's probably gonna be like, I don't know, maybe half of the price, not even. So I've just been Googling it, and they say everything else, sensors, holding material assembly, which we assume means labor, and more all come to $181, which delivers a total production cost of $490. That's less than half of Apple's $10,099 retail price for the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So they say the production cost of the 11 Pro Max is $490.50, which I actually have to say, like, it is not such a low price, because if you're going back to just earlier iPhones, I think the span between, okay, the production cost and the retail price was much higher, at least as far as I remember. I think it's actually also been like, okay, the production value was like $300 and they still sold it for just 900 or something. So I think they already improved there, but I have to say that you're paying a fucking lot for the brand, you know? It doesn't necessarily have to be about production quality. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the materials they used. Of course, if you're willing to buy an iPhone with gold, 60 karat gold materials, implementations, whatnot, then of course you're gonna pay a fucking lot just because the gold is worth quite a lot, you know, just because of the material. So in terms of the material, yeah, it would make sense that using high value material is also gonna be, is also gonna be seen in the price, you know, if you're having a high price, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case, you know, only if good material is used, which doesn't have to be really the case for every high quote unquote quality or high price item. Just like picking a driver and car in Mario Kart, you typically can't have top speed and acceleration, at least until you have beaten all the courses and unlocked the advanced carts. I don't know if you can actually hear that, but last night, and it's actually been pretty funny. Last night it's been snowing, and now it is just really white outside. The thing is, like, there's cars moving around and they are pretty loud, I'd say. And I don't know what it's called, but the vehicle that is just putting the snow away. Really high English, yes, I know. But the thing is, I didn't really expect that it is even gonna snow just this year. You know, I've actually just thought like, no, it's not gonna fucking snow because it's always been that warm and sunny and whatnot, and it's quite interesting. You know, it really is interesting. And I hope it is not bothering you, the whole background sound. But yeah, the thing is, what they're referring to with, okay, if you have unlocked the advanced Mario Karts is when you're having a lot of money, in terms of like, okay, you can have something that's really high in speed and really high in acceleration and whatnot if you're having quite a lot of money to buy this really expensive guitar. find the most important feature of any instrument is, I find that the most important feature of any instrument is your level of comfort. It's the most subjective quality of an instrument, and as such, it can't be quantified, and therefore it is impossible to put a price on. Conversely, I once paid $2,000 for a baseball bat with strings that was extremely uncomfortable, and right back to the builder I went. Yeah, it just is the case. Comfort, I think, is just a really, really huge part. Like, if you're just buying clothes that are looking really cool and they are really fucking expensive and they are branded with Louis Vuitton, Comme des Garçons, Givenchy, whatever it might be, just really highly valued and expensive items or brands, and they're not comfortable, like, yeah, it's fucked up. Why would you? It does make sense, of course, because it's a brand and because it's cool and because it's whatnot, Off-White, for example, as well. But if it is not just comfortable and it is about clothing that you're wearing probably just for quite some time a day, then I don't know, like, wouldn't make that much sense, at least in my point of view, like, but only my opinion, He doesn't need to fix what ain't broken, as they say. Yes, as I said before, like, I don't have to just buy myself a new phone either. It is just fucking slow and it pisses me off sometimes, of course, but I do not have to buy me a new iPhone or a new phone in general. It is working, and it's still working, and I'm really fucking grateful for that. The difference in sound quality between a good and shitty player is 90% of tone. The difference in sound quality between good and shitty gear is 10% of tone. The last 10% is important to be sure, but it is really just the icing on a cake. And you don't want to put nice icing on a shitty cake, do you? I gotta have to say that I do not really understand the analogy. Well, I do understand the analogy, but I do not understand the point there by saying the difference in sound quality between a good and shitty player is 90% of tone. I don't know, but I think the underlying concept or ladder there is, communication process, whatever they is that like, if you're just a shitty player and you're buying yourself a good guitar, you're still gonna play the good guitar in a shitty way. So yeah, great player plus the right gear is magic, and he explicitly puts the right in italic. The great player plus the right gear. He's not just talking about expensive gear, he's talking about the right gear for the great player. And there's actually a picture, and it says, it doesn't matter how many resources you have, if you don't know how to use them, it will never be enough. And there is a man that is trying to look, what is it actually fucking called? He wants to just have a look above the wall. So there's a wall, and he's just trying to just look. Oh, I don't know what it is called, actually. He just wants to see what is on the other side of the whole fucking wall. That's the point there. And there is a bunch of letters, but here, just put all those letters into a really big mountain of bullshit, I'd say, instead of using the letter as a letter should be used, like a fucking letter. But he used it in a different way, in the wrong way. And this is the point of this picture. Microsoft polling users for features they wanted in the next iteration of Windows. Almost all of the features people asked for were already available in the current version. Most people just didn't know how to use them. The pile of letters could be a pile of guitars or plugins or pedals or whatever. Because if you don't know how to use something, then it is fucked up. So let's actually head to the next article. I, by the way, hope that I'm gonna be able to get to the other one as well. Well, it's actually not that much. I assumed that it is way more. But it is from Flurn. It is actually also a YouTube channel, and I do have to say that I think he's actually called Aaron. The article is by Aaron. But the YouTube channel is actually pretty cool if you're interested in Photoshop and photo editing and probably also photography. But I don't know. Silly notion that your gear doesn't matter. Though there are always two sides to a coin, and so there are times where gear does matter, but for the most part, I still believe that in the end, gear does not matter. And I'd say so as well, actually. You can create a photo with a lot of impact with a Canon Rebel, which is with a kit lens and the bundled RAW converter, though a powerful editing program like Photoshop or Lightroom really does help. Yes, your gear will only help so much, but practice helps even more. I know if you're practicing quite a lot with a shitty gear, then you're probably going to be able to just put something off that's quite cool. But the thing is, if you're not having a lot of practice with something that is pretty nice and pretty cool and pretty whatever, even though it might be about cameras and cameras in general are used in very similar ways, then I don't know if you're able to just get everything out of the camera in the first place. Just because you haven't practiced with it and all those things, Most cameras and most lenses are better than most photographers, which is a quote. And I would say, I don't know, I'm not a photographer. I like to photograph some things, but I would also say so. Like, there's a lot of gear that is just really expensive and really, 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 really good, and you can do just a lot of fucking things with it. Gear matters when you start to specialize. Besides that all, it doesn't make the act of taking a photo slightly easier. It does make the act of taking a photo slightly easier. Yes, it is going to be the case, and it is just going to make everything a little bit more convenient. Whatever the gear is all about, whether it is a new microphone, whether it is a new camera, whether it is a new setup, whether it is whatever it might be, gear can make things easier. Most often it is the case that more expensive gear is going to make it even more easy, or whatever. But the most important part there of the sentence is that gear matters when you start to specialize. And then he's been thinking about just shooting architecture and macro photography. The thing is, if you're willing to do macro photography of, let's say, animals as there is a bee, then you're probably going to need a relatively big lens, since you're not going to be able to just, maybe, it depends on whatever you're trying to photograph or take a photo of, when it is a bee, which you're probably going to be able to get pretty close to. But if it is about a mammal, if it is about a bird, if it is about something like that, and you really just really get a close-up of it, then you're going to need a pretty huge lens, I'd say. Unless you are in a zoo or something, but, let's just pretend or assume that you are in the wildlife and you're trying to shoot the wildlife. So yeah, let's actually have a look at some photos that were taken by pretty shitty cameras, as they say. So stop blaming your gear for bad photography. 10 talented photographers who use shitty cameras. And there's actually a bunch of people like Chris Marker. Renowned experimental filmmaker artist Chris Marker hid a spy camera in his coat and snuck lo-fi fuzzy voyeuristic shots of passengers on the Paris metro. Savagely tinkered with the image's softness in Photoshop and paired them with classic art reminiscent of each subject. And there you can see, I think it looks cool. I think it really looks cool, even though it looks also pretty, strange. But yeah, looks cool. Chase Jarvis, who has done commercial for brands like Nike, Pepsi, Volvo, Reebok, Apple, and Red Bull, published "The Best Camera is the One That's with you," an entire book of photos that he snapped using his iPhone. And there you're having, I don't know how he is doing that in the water. Maybe he's just having like a plastic bag or something like that. But they all look pretty cool if you're just having a look at them. Of course, you're not going to get the highest quality, and you're not going to just have the sharpest image and whatnot, but I don't know if it is about the sharpness and about the quality of the image. The Andy Kania, completely no frills, flash, capture drunk, derelict and animal bras, truly, blah, 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 blah. Yes. We do just only have to have a look at them. They are expressing a lot of things. Sometimes the composition, I would say, at least in my point of view, is better than on other photos, but I'm not a photographer. I'm not really just educated in the art of photography, but there's actually... I like this one. I really like this one just because it's funny. But there's just a lot of things you can do just with whatever camera you're having. Just have a look at them. Is this Andy Warhol? Yeah, I assume so. I think it's himself here, I guess. Michael Wolf. Yeah, and that's it. And I think it's also going to be the end with the video. And the whole point of the video is that whatever you're having in terms of gear, use it to create something that's amazing. Because you can. Because it's not about the gear, it's about your skill, and it's about what you can do with it. But yeah, with that being said, I'll see you the next time, and I hope and wish you the best health, happiness, and also success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself of the fact that you should be a good person, because you're then also going to be remembered as a good person. 3 other questions that I'm having for you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea. But yeah, please consider subscribing to the podcast and the YouTube channel, and I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. So bye.